right. Um, I am Justine Lehman, and I'm going to take this onto my screen share for the workshop, and we'll go ahead and get started with our webinar here. Give me just a second. I'm just going to apologize up front for any mistakes I might make on the TA side of things. All right. So you're in the right place if you wanted to find out about our fall grant workshops here at the Community Foundation for the North State. I know you are all really, really busy, so I very much appreciate that you're taking the time out of your busy days to join us today. I want this to be a information-filled webinar for you with practical information, and some of you are new to it, some of you have been here before. I'm trying to find a happy medium, some little tips about the grant writing process. But all in all, we're just really grateful that you've taken your time to be here today. So as I said, I'm Justine. I'm the program officer here at the Community Foundation for the North State, and I am your contact for all things grant related. Megan is on here with us as well. You want to say hi, Megan? She's waving. I don't know if you can see her though. Megan touches
Hi, everybody. Sorry, I forgot I was muted.
Megan handles, touches everything that we do here at the Community Foundation. She's very much involved in both scholarships and grants. So you might hear from either of us in corresponding to help you with any assistance along the way in your grant application process. We would love for you to introduce yourselves in the chat box. We're curious to know your name, your organization, and what county you represent. And because it's a webinar, we're not on video, we won't go around and do it in person, but we're very interested to know, so that would be great. We're going to be monitoring your questions as we go through this webinar. If you could use the Q&A for that way Megan can track it. She'll let me know before I move on to new topics if there's any questions to answer. And then we'll make this available. Hopefully everyone will be able to see all the questions and the answers. And in case you didn't hear that very loud and obnoxious announcement, we are recording this webinar, which means also it will be made available to you later. And we'll provide the slide deck as well for the workshop when it's done. All right, I'm assuming there's no questions. I'll move on. So just real quick, the Community Foundation of the North State, we are also a nonprofit public charity organization, and we serve Shasta, Siskiyou, and Tehama counties. Our #1 goal is to take philanthropic people and match them with causes that matter to them here in the North State, and also sometimes across the nation and globally. We do also serve Modoc and Trinity counties. Some of our select funds are specifically for those counties. And also this year, we're very excited because we are supporting them now with North State Giving Tuesday. Up until this year, we were not able to bring them in on that. So we're very excited about that opportunity. Before I go any further, I just want to let you know, I know that some people learn by reading the screen, some people learn and retain by hearing the words. I'm not going to read every single detail, but that's why I'm going to do a little bit of narrative as I go, just to help to catch all the different people who are on board today. With Community Foundation, we do a lot to support our nonprofits and our community foundation, our community organizations. So we do grants that I think is the most obvious that people know about. There's competitive ones that you're interested in just by being on this webinar today. We also have non-competitive grants. So we have like over 150 fund holders, and they don't all do competitive grants. The advisors there, they might have wanted to provide funds in the way of grants to nonprofit organizations without accepting applications. And we try to match you with your needs with those types of grants. We also provide North State Giving Tuesday. We'll talk about that at the end of the webinar. And some of you might have heard of our Jumpstart Fundraising Accelerator. It's happened the last few years in the spring, and we connect some nonprofits who are interested with growing their fundraising abilities and providing some really good in-house computer-based school tools and matching you up with a coach with that. We do a lot of other things. How we actually create the funds is people donate money to us. They donate bonds or IRA transfers, real estate, what have you. We can set up endowment funds. We grow the money, and then we then grant the money out through the different funds. There are nonprofits that actually do that, and they have their own funds here in endowments, and we grow them, and then every year get donation, their own grants from their own endowments held here. If any of this is of interest to you, I have Andrea Scott's email down here at the bottom. You might want to jot that down or do a little screen snip. She is the person to talk to. So a great way to create another way of funding your nonprofit for years to come. Any questions on that before I move on?
Yeah, no questions so far.
Great. Our webinar overview, now that you know a little bit about us, this is what we're going to cover. There are 4 competitive grants right now, so I'm going to touch on each of them a little bit. We're going to talk about eligibility and due diligence. They're one and the same there. How do you get to our grant portal? A few nuts and bolts about the application, just some tips in there, and then what happens next. And of course, the upcoming fundraising opportunities, that would be North State Giving Tuesday. So I'm excited to share all this information with you. These are the 4 competitive grants we have going on right now. We have the Women's Fund, Animal Welfare Endowment, Community Arts Endowment, and the Reading Rancheria Community Fund. And this is just the page to see what all the due dates are. Everything that I share with you and all the information on the different screens, you will find sprinkled throughout the application. You'll find on our website and in our portal. You're also welcome to take snips or look for our PDF that might come later on, available on our website. So in case anyone's doing a snip, I'm going to leave this up just for a second so you have your due dates in one spot. They're all on Wednesdays in September. Okay. A little overview on the Women's Fund. The Women's Fund, their mission is to create a better future for women and their families in the Reading area. And they award grants to competitive grants that fulfill this. So if you're applying to the Women's Fund, the work that you're doing in some way needs to create a better future for women and their future in the Reading area and their families, I beg your pardon. So the Reading area is not just the incorporated city limits. These are the geographic boundaries. Again, this is on the application itself and on our website. So we go to Cottonwood, Shasta Lake City, Palisaggio, and Igo-Ono. The ranges for these grants are anywhere from $1,000 to $10,000. These can cover programmatic costs and salaries. Those are okay to include in your budget. And if you are awarded a grant, you will be required to attend the Giving Circle, which is in the evening on November 6th, whether it's you or a representative. And the really, really great thing about this Giving Circle is all the awardees attend, and then all the people who are attending the event, who are involved with the Women's Fund, collect donations that day of, and they select one of you, of the attendees, to receive a bonus gift in the money that they raised that night. So it's pretty cool. So that's the Women's Fund for you. The next is our Animal Welfare Endowment Fund. So the geographic area for this serves Shasta, Siskiyou, and Tehama counties. So if your organization is in any of those counties, you qualify. The grant range is anywhere from $1,000 to $5,000. The average grant size is $2,500. You can see here that it's for general support. That means unrestricted. That is very exciting. And the organizations, your primary work has to promote animal welfare in any of these categories, with helping homeless animals, pets, maybe elderly people who are struggling to pay for services to keep their animals, maybe feeding them. We see grants like that. You might support wildlife. You might work with like canine units, so you support working animals. Those are just a few examples. Because this is unrestricted funds and the size of the grants, this is a general fund grant, so you don't have to come up with a project and create a budget or a timeline. This is general information on your organization is what we're going to be looking for in the applications. What are you working on this year? How does your group collaborate with others? And we know that in working with animals, there's a lot of focus on what data do you use to show both the need and the impact. So we ask a couple questions around that. Are there any questions so far?
No, everything's clear in the chat box.
Great. Okay. And again, all this information you will see scattered in the application and on our website. So the third of our 4 competitive grants that we have going on right now is the Community Arts Endowment Fund. This grant range is from $1,000 to $2,500, and it is for a special project regarding community arts, so there is a budget required. We'll talk a little bit more about that. And this is for Shasta and Siskiyou County. So the generous people who have donated to this fund, these are the geographic areas that they're supporting. This is a very unique fund in that individual artists can apply. Normally, you do have to be a nonprofit or, and we'll talk about the other types, but an organization, a business. But here, individual artists may apply. And what's really important is this has to be for new public artwork. It doesn't have to be painting or doing a mural like you see in the picture here. As you can see, it's like theater or music or sculpture or film. But it is definitely for new work and for public work so that anyone can see it. Are there any questions about this?
No questions.
Great. And last but not least, the Reading Rancheria Community Fund. And the Reading Rancheria Community Fund is one of our oldest grants here that we hold at the Community Foundation of the North State. They serve Shasta, well, we serve Shasta and Trinity County through these grants. The range of the grants is $1,000 to $10,000. And I know that's a higher end range, but honestly, the average of the grants is usually around $2,500. Similar to the Animal Welfare Fund, this is not a project-based grant, which means it's for general support, but not salaries. And it can be used for anything like capital improvements, equipment, some programs, services, really very flexible. It's really great. And because it's not for a project, you don't have to write up that you have a special project or do a project budget or say the timeline of your project. What we want to know is, what are you working on this year? Do you plan on purchasing specific items? I'm just going to say, for example, say you're a law enforcement unit that wants to buy some more vests and equipment. It would be really helpful in your narrative part, even though you don't have to do a budget. How much is each set of for one officer, for the vest and the helmet, the gear that you're buying? Because if the Reading Rancheria Community Fund is not able to fund your entire request, they might say, well, we can provide 3 of them and not 5. And so it's good to know how much a unit is when you're writing for this grant. And this, the Reading Rancheria Community Fund also encourages groups that serve with Native Americans, youth, and or rural communities. Okay, so that's it, giving you an overview of the 4 grants that we're accepting applications for right now. And so I'm just going to move right into eligibility. To be eligible, organization needs to be either a 501c3 tax-exempt public charity or a public entity like a school or a special district or any county or city entity. Or you could be fiscally sponsored by a nonprofit or a public entity. You can also be an individual artist for the Art Fund only. We do get questions around tribes, so I just wanted to point out that federally recognized tribes apply as public agencies, and non-federally recognized tribes can apply with their own nonprofit status, or if they don't have their nonprofit status, they can have a fiscal sponsor. So those are the different types of organizations that can apply. Another thing of being eligible is, are you in good standing before you apply? So first, if you might have received a grant before from us, and grant reports are a part of grants. We all know this. We might not love it, but it is what it is. So if you have a past due grant for us, then you would have to clean that up before you could submit this grant application. If you're having any trouble with that, say you hadn't expensed all your funds, you have a little left over and you need some help, can I extend that for you? I'm here for you. So please email and we see how we can support you with that. You also need to be current and be in good standing with your nonprofit status, both on the federal level and on the state level. So for the federal level, we check your 501c3 through GuideStar. And you can see I have the website here for GuideStar. It's guidestar.org. And if you don't have a membership, it's free. Just log in for membership, put the name of your organization in, and you'll see on there if there's any red flags, if you didn't file your 990s in time, or what have you. The majority of the time, those are all really good for the nonprofits. Of note, if you are a public entity, this does not apply to you because you're already part of the government process. For states, you have to show that you're in good standing with the state, with the Secretary of State for your state. Because we're all dealing with local grants here, I think all of you are going to be looking at the California Secretary of State. So that's the email of the website, sorry, that's provided there. And I recommend that you search your business to see. The most common thing we see on here is that the statement of information is past due. It's a real quick, easy fix for organizations to bring that up to date, but that's what we check. If you have any trouble with either of these, Megan and I are happy to help you. We will be checking all of these anyway as a part of the due diligence. The reason why we're encouraging you to do that now is it saves time. Because in the end, if there are little things that have to be taken care of, the sooner you get started, the better, because we do have a deadline on these grants of when we need to have those fixed. So you're doing yourself a favor by checking it even before or while you're filling out your application. Other things to think about for eligibility, read the fine print. If you are doing a project-based grant application, can you finish it in the 12-month timeline? Do you agree with our non-discrimination policy? Are the costs that you're looking at using, are they eligible for what the grant allows? Are you in the geographic area? All these little things, we want to make sure that you don't waste your time applying for a grant that you don't qualify for. So I hope that's helpful.
No questions for that either.
Great. I wanted to take a minute to acknowledge that the community foundations, and both here locally and across the nation, one of our main things is that we support our community. We're built by the community and we support the community. And as such, we know that the majority of our grants, they're more modest grants, and we offer modest applications. These are not the level of applications. If you're new, I don't want you to worry. They're not like applying for a federal grant or $100,000 grant from the state. Our questions, we want to get enough information, but we don't want you to have to spend tons and tons of time and doing all this research and work for it. So that's how we've designed our applications for you. If you are struggling, I am here to support you and help you be successful in this grant process. You are welcome to reach out to me with questions or tips or advice. I'm happy to do that. I offer that for everybody. As we get closer to the deadline, I am less available, so I recommend reaching out sooner than later.
Hi, Justine. Mike
yes,
does
ma'am.
have a question. Are there specific forms to fill out, or do we write up a proposition?
It's a great question. And I'm actually in the next slides you do go to our grant portal, and I'm going to walk you through how to get to that portal and how to create an account. And we have specific applications, and we're about to cover that. So it's a great segue. I appreciate the question. Yeah. So here I'm just giving you an overview of the portal, because we have our website, which tells you about our grants, and then we have the portal, which is where you log in and write your grants, write your reports, sign your agreements, and that. So they're two different entities. The portal itself is where you have a dashboard. Your organizational information is in there once. You don't have to re-enter it with every application. You can invite collaborators in-house. Say you need to invite somebody who's good at doing the budgets, or you want to answer a certain question, you can do that. There's a button in there that says invite collaborators. We sign our agreements electronically, which makes nothing get lost in the mail that way, which is awesome. And this year, I wanted to point out this last bullet. Some of us, we work with a lot of different nonprofits. We might volunteer on a PTA with a school. We might, have some civic groups that we work with, and we help with grant writing. And it used to be, up until this year, you had to have a separate login for each organization, and that is no more. You can have one login now, and then you can choose the drop down of which organization you're working on at that time. If this applies to you, please either put a message with your name and your email address in the chat, or just email me or Megan later, because we would want to be on the phone with you to make sure we're using the email address you wish, and that there's a few things I have to do in the background. But that is really a positive move for people who help more than one nonprofit. Okay, so to answer your question, I'm getting into now, then I'm going to go on to a different slide here, and we're going to cover just some like how-tos of the application process, how to find the grant portal, how to log in, where are the applications, there's a little eligibility quiz, how to preview the application, a couple tips, and then we'll come back and move on. So I'm going to stop sharing here. Hi. And now I'm going to screen share. Does she click the right one? Share. Okay, hopefully you're seeing this, how to find applications. Very good. So this is where I'm going to show you, first of all, how to find the applications, and then we're going to go to how to log in. So I would bookmark this browser address, cfnorthstate.org, and then grant, and then grants. And that will get you to a screen where you would scroll down to see what grant opportunities are available, and you can filter. So you would only want to see right now which applications are open right now, and then you can also filter your counties, and then you hit submit, and then the screen will populate those grants that are available right now that match what you filtered, and then you just click on to read more. So in the example here, I clicked on the Women's Fund to read more, and it gives you a little blurb real quick about the grant that you're looking at. You can click on this link to see prior grants that have been awarded. This is your application deadline. And then I recommend very highly that you preview your application questions before you click here to apply. So you definitely want to do that. And when you do that, this is just one page of the preview. So on your left here, this is the first page of the Women's Fund PDF version. So you download it and save it to your computer and have fun with it. And you'd see the questions. I do want to point one thing out. We're not going through the whole PDF preview because it's really a very simple application that you can all figure out really easily, I think. But I do get a lot of questions on this one for people who have downloaded and previewed the application. When you apply in the portal, the first question you're going to answer is, are you applying under this organizational summary? Are you a 501c3? Are you a public entity? Or are you a fiscally sponsored organization? And depending on which one you check mark, there'll be different questions in the application that apply to you. And those are the only ones that you'll see. When you download the PDF, it prints every single question for all three of these. So as you're looking at it, some of these questions can look confusing. So we added this little red note to certain areas of the PDF that you'll get downloaded. So we want you to encourage you to read the red sections, because if you're not a 501c3 and you're applying under a fiscal sponsor, well, then this section would apply to you. But if this doesn't apply to you, if you are a 501c3, you can ignore this and move on to the next. So I hope that makes sense. I just wanted to point out that as you're looking through this, not everything that you see in the PDF version will apply to everybody, and it's okay to skip. Okay, so how do you find the actual portal where you would log in and create a user login? So again, you go to our website and keep scrolling down until you see applying for a grant, and click visit our grants portal. And when you get there, you're going to see on the right side, this is the snip of the login page. There's a couple things that are really important for me to point out. If you click create a new account, that will create a new account for your organization. So only do that if you have are 100% that your organization has never had a grant from Community Foundation of the North State before. So if you're a newer staff member, you might want to check first. Just give us a call, because otherwise, if you create a new organization, there's now going to be two organizations for this, two profiles for the same organization in the system. You won't be able to see your history of that's been there for your organization. And then we have to merge them, which we can do to fix it if that happens. But it's better if we don't go there in the first place. Again, we are here for you. Please give us a call. Megan is happy to look it up. I'm happy to look it up and see. So don't create a new account until you're 100% sure that your organization is not in the system already. Logging in, as I mentioned earlier, is specific to every user's email address. So you can't share an email address and have different logins. If you know you've logged in before and you just don't remember your password and highlighted in yellow, go ahead and just click forgot your password and you're good to go. If you've never logged in, you might be a new staff member or just new in general. We need to assign you an email, a user login that's specific to your email address. So go ahead and give us a call. We'll create that for you, and you'll be good to go as well. We'll add it to the organization. The software that we use on this portal, this organization is really supportive and provides a lot of good information. So I've underlined here in this example, it says click here for instructions and video tutorials. They don't take that long and they are really helpful. I use them all the time for myself when I come across something. They're really, really good at what they do. So it might be a few minutes of your time, but I think you'll find it well worth it. So before you get into the actual application, we help you with not wasting your time by throwing in this very brief eligibility quiz. So once you've logged in, you've created an account and you've logged in, it will take you straight to the eligibility quiz. If you already know you're an existing user and say you just clicked the apply button from our website, it'll also take you here. So don't worry, it'll take you here when you're going to log in. When you log in, you should see one of these for every, you should see 4 of these boxes, because right now there's 4 opportunities. So you take a quiz for each one. This is a snip just of last year's Community Arts Endowment. And so it explains the grant again. I told you it was sprinkled everywhere, so you don't have to worry about making a mistake. And then you would just start the eligibility quiz. There's only a few questions. They include things like what's the range of money you're applying for. That way we know it's within this grant range. Do you have a late report that's past due with us? And a couple others. It's very quick and simple. Whoops, sorry guys. Every once in a while someone goofs. And they might mark down that they have a past due report, for example, when they don't, and now you can't apply. It says you don't qualify. Don't worry, we can reset that. Give us a call and we'll take care of it for you. So you can still apply if you make a mistake on this eligibility quiz. So just give us a call and we'll reset it. And then once you've done that, if you're eligible, this little window will pop up and then you just click to apply. It's very simple. We love it. Okay, I'm going to give you some application tips. If the question has an asterisk next to it, you're required to answer. So until you've answered the questions with the asterisks, you won't be able to submit your application. One of the first questions to answer is to write in your proposal summary. And that's sort of like the title of your application of your grant. And if you're awarded, we use that in referencing the grant. It's in some of the documents and communication that we use with you. So if you're applying for the Community Arts or the Women's Fund, we want you to actually create your own little summary sentence or phrase. And we want it to be simple. It's not like a really long explanation. There are always links right there on your application to see prior proposal summaries if you need some inspiration. And I have an example here. One of them was support Heritage Mural Project at Martin Luther King Jr. Center. Perfect. It doesn't get into the demographics or the benefits or anything like that. you know with reading this phrase exactly what this money is going to do. And it's a really easy reference. If you're applying for animal welfare or the Reading Rancheria grant, we want you to write for general operating support. Don't describe what your program is there. Anytime in the application process, you can stop and come back. You do not have to finish it at one go. I have a little snip at the very bottom, what the very last part of the grant application looks like. So just click Save Application. The only thing I recommend you do is that you make sure you come back before the deadline and click Submit Application. I've had once in a while somebody misses the deadline, they forget, and they thought that they had submitted. So I've gone through sometimes and can see like, oh, this person, like there's 1 or 2 grants left, and I can see everything's filled out, and have reached out and they've said, oh my goodness, yes, I didn't realize I didn't hit the submit. So if you catch that yourself, give us a call. We can take care of that. We won't let you like write and add tons of stuff, but if we see that you just didn't click submit, then you're good. When you've hit submit, you'll know because you're going to receive a confirmation email on your dashboard. Like when you log into this portal, you're going to see that your application has been submitted. And we really recommend that you download the application packet at that time. That way you have your own copy on your own computer in case you don't have internet or want to reference, or if that's your thing. Okay, I think I'm going to stop screen sharing now on this guy. I'm going to come back and continue our webinar. Okay. In the applications themselves, in the narrative, like I mentioned, they're not complex grant applications. They're for newer grant writers. We want to support you. We're not here to make your life harder. We want to support you so you can continue thriving and doing the good work for our communities. So if you have a project-based grant, those are the community arts funds and the women's funds. When you're writing about your project, just tell us why it's needed, what the impact will make. Something that's important to know is that the grant applications, because we're a community foundation, we recruit the community to help us evaluate the grant application. So we have panels that read the applications and give input on it. And they're trained, but they're members of the community. They might not know about your organization. They might not know the jargon that we use in our industries. So just try to speak really clearly and simply to your readers. You don't have to use big words to impress that way. Just have a conversation with us in your writing. We want to keep it simple for you. But be thorough. Don't dumb it down too much, but we just really want to make it easy for everyone involved. In the project-based grants, you do need a budget. We want to know how much your project's going to cost. It's important to know that competitive budgets will often demonstrate that they're not just expecting to run this project based on this one grant. So you want to show you have multiple funding streams. So I have a sample budget here for you. This is one that was submitted a number of years ago. It was really nice, very thorough. So it lines out the expenses, cost per unit, labor, materials, all the different titles, all different types, even in the tax. And the total expense total is equal to the total of the revenue. That's important. So in this case, it was a grant to the McConnell Fund. They were asking for $15,000, but they're also saying, hey, we have skin in the game. We're also putting this, some of our maintenance fund towards this. Whether it's this grant or any other grant you're writing, I just want to give you a tip that you should always monetize volunteer support for your grants, because it is worth money and it shows that the community supports you and your organization and your cause. And people want to put their money towards successful programs that support the community and that are also supported by the community. So you could put in here volunteer painting, $5,000 and as a part of the cost. Say you have a really cool vendor that's giving you, it's like $5,000 to paint your building, but I'm going to discount you $2,000. So you're actually only going to have to pay $3,000. So proud of my quick math there. So you would actually put the full expense up here that it is $5,000, but then come down here and put $2,000 is vendor discount. So again, you're showing your different sources of revenue. This vendor believes in you enough that it's giving you a discount. So I might be belaboring the point, but it's very valuable in grant writing to know that about writing budgets. With your general support grants, you're not going to be talking about a project. So what are you going to be talking about? And pointing it out that is, again, the animal welfare and the Reading Rancheria Community Fund grants are the ones that are for general support this time around. We want a big picture about your organization. Give us a little history. What's the current work you're doing? What do you plan on doing this year? How do you anticipate using the funds? Who are you collaborating with? These are all really good things to educate the reader about your organization. The financial health part actually applies to both project-based and general support grants. It's so that before a grant is awarded, we of course want to know, is your organization fiscally strong? And so we look at a profit and loss to see how much income and expense do you have in a year. We look at a budget statement to see, well, how much money do you have in the bank? How much do you owe people? If you own buildings, how much are they valued? What are your loans? Like those different things. So those are the reasons why we ask for those, to know the health of your organization. One last thing, when we create these grant applications in the portal, we tell it the maximum character limit, and we made it big. We made it big because we didn't want anyone to get cut off if they really wanted to write a lot. We didn't make it big because we want you to write to the character limit. Like, just write what you want to write. Don't worry about the maximum words. We're not counting your words. We just want you to have enough room to write what you want to write. So before I go on to what happens next, I want to know if anyone has anything that needs clarifying on the grant application process.
Nothing currently on that. We just had one question about if PowerPoint was going to be emailed out to them after it was completed.
Yes, we're going to say, or I'm going to merge both of the screen shares here and into one PDF, and we'll make that available. Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm not 100% sure if we're going to email it to everybody. I don't have a problem with that at all, but we would definitely make it available to you. It might be on the website, but I'm going to go for emailing it to you. But if people couldn't attend, we want to make sure they can get it too. So I think we might also put it on the website.
Great.
If you emailed me too, I will send it to you. So
yeah, of course.
My job is to make you all successful and help you as the best that I can. So I encourage you to create a relationship with me professionally so I can help you. Don't ever be afraid to pick up the phone or send me an email, introduce yourself. Okay, so to that, it's a great segue. Add me as a contact. I will be communicating with you throughout this process, and if it goes to your junk mail, that's very sad. So add me, Justine at cfnorthstate.org. When we do your due diligence checks, if we have a question, I'm going to email you. If it goes to your junk mail, you won't get it. The applications are reviewed by grant panels, like I said, and they might have follow-up questions. And when they do, I email them to you. It would be sad if it went to your junk mail. Sometimes it's a very natural part of the grant process is that we might want to do a site visit. We want to make sure that you know if you don't get a site visit, that is no bearing on whether or not you have a good grant. And we also want you to know that if you do get a site visit, again, it has no bearing on to whether or not you're going to get a grant. It just means that something in your grant application, more than one panelist said they want to come out and see what's going on to better understand, to have show and tell, whatever it is. So I will email you that to coordinate. So again, please make sure that you created a contact for me in your email. Yeah, so we go through a really great process with our panelists to really get it down to the ones that they recommend for the grants. But they are not the final decision makers. Every dollar that goes out at the Community Foundation of North State is reviewed and approved by our board. So that's the final step in approving grants. And all award and denial emails are sent out, all award and denial notices are sent out via email. Again, you need me as a contact so you get that notification. From the very beginning of the process to when checks go out is usually, at the most, it's about 3 months from the deadline. If your organization gets a grant, you will, like I just said, you'll get an email and you have to sign, it'll gives you a link to sign the grant agreement. Until you've signed a grant agreement, I can't move forward with paying you your check. So you want to make sure, if it's not you, if you need to have your executive director sign it, there's links in there to do that. Get that done. Don't print it and sign it and mail it to me. I'm just going to call you and say, I'm so sorry. I need you to go into the portal and do it. Everything is in the portal. And then we'll mail you out your check. Every one of these grants is a 12-month grant. So by the end of the 12 months, you will need to fill in the report. And again, just like we don't want these to be complicated applications, we don't want these to be complicated grant reports. We value your time, but we do need to know what you did with the money to be accountable with that. And we want to see, we want to share. We share on our social media. We share back with the fund holders so that they'll continue supporting and granting more money. So this is a really important aspect. A little word about the photos. In all of these, in 3 of the 4, you can see people's faces. Some of you work with populations you can't show their face on a picture, but I want to tell you that you can take very good pictures that are compelling and share your story without showing a child or a person's face. You could have taken a picture of these kids at the video game very easily, captured the same feel without their faces. If they were kids in the forest, you could be behind them as they're climbing the hill. You could be behind them as they're trying to climb this tree stump. You could do so many things that are still compelling and are interesting, and see that what you are doing with your boots on the ground helping our community. So just because you can't show a face doesn't mean you can't share a great, compelling picture. Okay, this is the sad one. If your organization doesn't get a grant, I have been there. My background's been in nonprofit management for about 30 years. And it is a bummer when you put work into something and you really have great ideas that you want to do with this money and you don't get it. But I want you to know that I will often send unfunded but qualified projects to my donor advisors, my fund advisors. If I know that this is something that they've told me they're interested in, or for any reason, we will share with them and say, hey, do you want to support? So you could still get funding from a different source. I encourage you that if you are interested to know feedback about why you didn't get the grant, please reach out to me. If I have constructive feedback for you from the panel, I will share it with you. But I also want you to know that there often isn't anything you did wrong. For example, just this spring, the Reading Rancheria Community Fund, we received $400,000 in application requests with $100,000 available to grant. I mean, I just tell you flat out, so many of those grants that didn't get funded didn't have anything wrong with the application itself. It didn't have anything that could have changed, just as how what's of interest in that moment in time, what's compelling. Was there something with law enforcement? Was there something with fires? Was there something like on the news? So many different things that can come into play. So don't be, if I have feedback, I'm going to give it to you is what I'm trying to say, but I don't always have feedback. This 4th bullet, it's worth putting up there, especially if you're a newer nonprofit organization. I don't mean to be like condescending or expect that you don't already know this if you've been running your program for a while. Obviously, it's so hard to run nonprofits, and we need diverse revenues, and grants are one slice of the funding pie. But that's just an aside. If you're a smaller or newer nonprofit, that might be a helpful little tip there to know about. And when we say we want you to try again for future rounds, we mean it. We see organizations that do, and then they do get it maybe the second time or maybe even the third time they apply, because things ebb and flow. And we see the tenacity too. Okay, anything else about the grants before I move on to North State Giving Tuesday?
As of
Great.
right now, yeah, you're good.
Great. Okay. So North State Giving Tuesday, if you don't know what it is, it's a part of the Giving Tuesday, which is the nationwide event. And this year it's on December 3rd, right? Yeah, December 3rd. I just realized that date is not on my screen. I'm so sorry about that. It just opened yesterday, registration. It is a social platform to raise money, to do fundraising. And the great thing about it is that you're not on your own. In that, I mean, all of the nonprofits that participate, we're all putting out social media posts. We're emailing our supporters, the people who are on our board, the people that have donated to us in the past. We're all notifying them about this. We give you tools through this. We can give you ideas and suggestions and trainings on how to best promote that on your social media platforms. And then on the day of the event, all this donation monies come in, and then we have donors who are like, we want to match funds, we have power hour, like we have all sorts of different money that you can get on in addition to the money that you raise specifically for your nonprofit. So the more work you put in, the more you're going to get out of it. But it's a great event because there's this synergistic energy that comes together, and like we're talking like $1 million in the North State raised in one day. It's pretty phenomenal. The website to register is northstategives.org. And if you have any questions, there's an email address there. But that website, that'll get you all the information you need. I highly recommend you participate in North State Giving Tuesday. There is a webinar coming up too on the 29th. And I think you have to subscribe or sign up for that on the website. Okay, my last thing, if you are not on our newsletter, I really recommend you do. Jill does a phenomenal job with all of our outward-facing marketing, and one of these is our e-newsletter. They're really timely. Not only do we share when we have grants internally that are coming up, but we share when we find out about other grants that are coming up that we have nothing to do with. It's a great resource. It's a great resource if someone's interested in starting a fund too. And we share so much information that's pertinent to this whole North State of the communities that we serve. So you just go to our website, cfnorthstate.org, scroll down, you can't miss it, big sign, subscribe to our newsletter. And I really, really recommend you read it. It's a quick read every month. And I think we made it in less than an hour. Yay. All right. I can't overstate that I do welcome you to email me if you have questions, to make connection. My job is not, I don't have authority in approving grants. My job is to make you successful in applying for grants. So I am here as a resource for you, and so is Megan. So that's our contact information. If there are no questions, then you are all free to go.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedules again. It's not lost on us how hard you all work to do the work you do for our communities. And where it's an honor really for us to support you. So thank you.
You're just getting a lot of thank yous and great jobs.
Oh,
No questions, but that's
good.
always appreciated.
Good. I appreciate that very much. Awesome. All right. Will you everyone take care?